Right, I bring to you Trigger's broom. So, it's you know, an ongoing story whereby a bike I bought quite a few years ago, about 12 years in the making, whereby effectively I've replaced the parts over and over again for virtually everything. So, I suppose you could call this maybe the third iteration of Trigger's broom. So, in terms of what is older than 12 months old on this bike, the seat and the handlebars, that's it. Everything else was actually replaced back in March 2020. So, yeah, a bit of a running theme. The previous incarnation was, it actually ended up as a black hardtail before this incarnation of it. That actually got stolen. So I rebuilt that one, and it got stolen. But you know, it traces its roots back to a Mongoose Otero, which, yeah, not a great bike. But yeah, this is a great bike. But we're going to change the frame out. So we'll change the frame and the brakes, which basically means taking everything apart. But in this video, it's preparing for the transplant. So, you know, a lot of people go on about especially on YouTube, you know, if you're going to buy one thing, right, buy the frame, because there's one thing you can't replace. You can replace a frame, it can be a bit difficult, but you know, I've replaced frames in the past. Friends of mine have replaced frames in the past. As long as you do a bit of thought behind what you're going to choose next and what you have, you know, it can be quite a simple exercise. So I'm just going to go through things you may want to obviously consider, and also the preparation to make sure you've ordered all the parts you need, because the last thing you want is a bike out of action whilst you're waiting for something that you haven't ordered. So we'll start with the back. This is a 29er. So in terms of changing the frame, really, I'm just going to, you know, if I want to keep the wheels, I want to keep the expenditure as low as possible, it's going to be another 29er frame. It's quite simple. I know it sounds logical, but you know, it's one of those things. So 29er frame, which means 29 wheels, 29 tyres I can keep if I get a 29er frame. Now this hub is a boost hub, so it's a 148 by 12. So obviously, if I'm looking to buy another frame, I want to make sure it's got the same hub. Now, if you've got a 142 bike, 142 by 12, and you want to go to 148, you can get adapters for hubs. It's not the best thing in the world, but you can get some spaces for most hubs, and you can do that conversion. In terms of the gear set, so as I'm keeping the wheel, I'm keeping the hub, so therefore the 12-speed socket is not a problem. Same with the actual mech. Now, in terms of dropout, this uses a traditional dropout, not a direct mount one. Some 11-speed bikes, at least, had a direct mount. The direct mount mech hangers. So if you're going to change frames and you want to keep that mech hanger, you're either buying a link, and actually I've got one for sale at the moment, or get one with a direct mount if that's what you're doing. So yeah, just make sure that your mech can mount to a hanger in some way. Now, chain, the chain you size for the bike. So unless the bike you're buying is exactly the same size, you're probably going to replace the chain. And to be honest, with most people, it's probably time to change the chain anyway. This chain's only done 300 miles, so it's probably got quite a lot of life in it. It might actually work with my next bike, it might not, but I've got a spare 12-speed chain just in case. So in terms of cranks, so these are boost cranks, or Shimano's 52 and a bit mil cranks, which apparently work in boost and non-boost. Just if you obviously want to keep your cranks, if you've got non-boost cranks, you want to put them on a boost frame or vice versa, just keep that in mind. The bottom bracket. So in terms of bottom bracket, this is a screw type one. Again, if you're looking to use the bottom bracket, generally you probably are going to replace it. But if you are looking at replacing, keeping your bottom bracket, you probably want to match. Pedals should be fine. They're pretty much universal, so they'll mount to anything. Now, in terms of dropper post, so like seat posts, they come in different widths or different girths, whatever you want to call that measurement. It's the same with the seat stem clamp as well. So this is a 31.6, the frame I'm moving to is 31.6, that's all good. If you've got, let's say, a 30.9 and you want to move to a 31.6, you can get a shim generally, so you fattens the girth, but you're still going to have a problem with the seat post clamp, so you may need a new seat post clamp. And if you're going the other way, there is no solution. So if you've got a 31.6 girth post and you want to go to a 30.9 frame, and actually I looked at this as part of maybe getting an orange P7, and that doesn't work. So yeah, you start wondering whether you should just chop out the post or just change your frame selection. And just on another point, so in terms of cable routing, whether it's internal or external, cable lengths are likely to change, but to be honest, if you're looking at doing this, your cable outers and inners probably need changing anyway. Hydraulic hoses, yeah, look, if you don't know they're going to fit or you haven't left enough slack, then change them out. Bottle cage is a bottle cage. Your frame will either fit on a frame or not. So same with the we've already covered the hoses. So forks, frames generally have an optimal, or built with an optimal view on travel. So these are 150mm forks. The frame I'm putting in, Ragley do a 140mm version and a 160mm version. So 150 right in the middle, probably the recommended sweet spot. So that's all cool. But if you're maybe going to a bike that's got the recommended travel's less than or more, you might be able to do something with the air shaft in your fork to either extend or reduce the travel. But also just bear in mind in the headset, and I'll come to that in a moment, but this is a tapered fork. I'm going to put it in a frame as a tapered fork, but if you're got a straight fork, for example, and you're going to put in a tapered frame, you can do that. It looks weird, but you can do it. Just need to buy the parts. And now obviously the front wheel, because I'm keeping the forks, the front wheel and everything's all fine. This is a 29, I've put a 29 bike, jobs are good in, it's all good. So in terms of like bars, the bars, look, as long as you've got a stem, bars will attach, but your stem length, depending on what frame, there might be a recommendation to go slightly longer or slightly shorter. It really is up to you what you do with your stem. It's largely personal preference. My next build, I'm actually going to change the stem because I don't like the look of this one. But it's as long as it's going to fit, it's going to fit. So that's all cool. Now coming back to the head tube. As I say, this is a tapered one. It's a ZS44 and a ZS56. Hope mix and match type headset. Now the frame I'm going to, it's 44mm straight, so the top headset fits in terms of being a ZS44, but the bottom one doesn't, and I've had to buy an EC44 bottom head cup for that, and bearings and everything else. Now obviously in this case it hasn't put me off changing to a different frame, but it might some people if you want to reuse your headset. So best thing to do, decide exactly what will move over to your new frame, what won't. If something won't, order in advance, because the last thing you want is to end up with a bike you just can't use. And I've done such here, so I've got a whole bunch of bits here that I'm obviously going to put on the new build. Basically, if you're looking to do this and you don't have lots of tools or anything else, you really need to start thinking about the tools you're going to need as well. So things like Allen keys, obviously useful for most of the stuff on the bike. The discs are attached to the wheels using T25 screws. If you need to detach them, that's what you need. In terms of things like your bottom bracket, special tool there. In terms of headset, both removing the headset and putting a headset in, special tools again. So yeah, just make sure you've got all the tools that you're going to need, because that's something else that's going to obviously scupper you. Also, if you are looking to keep your brakes, maybe just check the condition of them, just see if they need the pads or discs replacing. But yeah, that's it. Just make sure you've got the tools you need as well.